one of the things I do is always stay open wherever I'm at. I'm a spiritual man, so I know like wherever I'm at, God says I'm supposed to be here. So just pay attention. Doesn't mean you're supposed to get anything out of it lucratively, but it could be a new relationship or an educational lesson.
Welcome to Stay Paid Real Estate Marketing. Unlock the secrets of success in the real estate world, where each episode delivers valuable tips and strategies to elevate your marketing game and help you succeed in both life and business. Brought to you by Reminder Media.
Welcome to Stay Paid Real Estate Marketing. I'm Joshua Stike along with Luke Acree. And before we bring on our guest today, we'd love it if you take a minute to subscribe to Stay Paid on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're not already subscribed, while you're there, drop us a review. We'll read it here on the show. This week's featured review comes from AZ Realtor Ken. So I'm assuming this is Ken in Arizona.
Let's go.
Ken says, take action, 5 stars. I've been listening to this podcast for a few years and always find great value. I also appreciate their gentle reminder to take action. I use their other services, American Lifestyle Magazine, as well as some other digital content. Great value for a very reasonable price. Thank you, Ken, not only for that review, but for being a client of Reminder Media.
Love it.
Yeah. Our guest today is Chris Erdmann. Chris is a high-producing real estate broker, and the CEO and co-owner of Blu.Ink Real Estate. Through his leadership at Blu.Ink, he is elevating real estate agents' resources, support, and education so they can focus on the client experience. Chris, welcome to Stay Paid. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for the great introduction, Josh. I look forward to being on this.
Yeah, Chris, man, we're excited to have you. Guys, Chris is humble, but we're not going to let him be humble on this podcast. The guy's a beast, has a team of like 60 agents. But I want to focus in on, like, you've been successful, right, in real estate and building, your own business. You just moved to a new area. And This is a struggle that so many people ask us, like, hey, I'm just getting started in a new area. I don't know a ton of people. How do I grow my business? I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you're going to attack going to this new area, which is like an hour and a half or whatever away from where you were, and trying to build this real estate business.
Yeah, so very much. We do have the real estate business growing and moving forward back home in Bellingham, but an hour and a half away. I've always wanted to move to the city. So I'm coming here with these fresh new eyes, being like, oh my gosh, I get the opportunity to move wherever I want. And it's scary moving from your safety blanket, right? And so one of the things that I had asked myself is, what do I want life to look like this time? And life was already good, but what do I want it to look like this time? And I'm like, okay, well, I want to grow my sphere and my circle with amazing people. And so I set the bar like this. I just want to meet and befriend successful people. And success can be defined on all certain types of levels. But if they're deeming that, hey, I'm living a successful life, I'm interested. The second thing is if they're happy and joyful overall. We all have ups and downs, and that's okay. But if they have those two elements, I'm interested in becoming their friend, and I'm interested in bringing them into my circle and vice versa. And so that's my ground level business and personal life plan, growing into a new community here.
Love that, man. I love how you went straight to life by design. Like, what do I want my life to look like? Versus, exactly.
Like this next phase,
It's amazing because my brain immediately went to like, tactically, how am I going to generate leads, type idea. And you were like, hey, what do I want my life to look like? And I love that because that allows you to now frame properly how you're going to go about building the business. And you framed up, this is the ideal person I would want to be around to add to my sphere. So when you think through like the tactics, like you obviously are an incredible network and relationship builder, because you just told me a story about getting a client in the elevator there at this new place that you're living. So walk me through, like, how are you going to build that sphere? How are you going to attract in people that are joyful and happy and successful? Like, what's the plan?
Yeah, so I have 2 routes that I'm really focusing on. And the first route is networking or relationship building. Don't want to get too high up on the word networking, but just meeting people. And so one of the things I do is always stay open wherever I'm at. I'm a spiritual man, so I know like wherever I'm at, God says I'm supposed to be here. So just pay attention. Doesn't mean you're supposed to get anything out of it lucratively, but it could be a new relationship or an educational lesson.
Love that.
So one example is I walked into the bank just like I usually do the other day, or the first day that I was here in Bellevue. And I made good conversation with the teller. The next thing is we hit it off. She's like, "Hey, do you want to meet the business banker?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So I meet the business banker there, and he's like, "Oh, Chris, man, we're kicking it off. Really great conversation. I'm actually one of the leadership in a B&I group." And I said, "Oh, I heard of B&I. That sounds great." He's like, "Would you want to come?" I'm like, "Absolutely." He's like, "Well, I actually won't be there, and I'm supposed to speak. Will you speak on my behalf?" I'm like,
No way, dude.
I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, absolutely." And so he's like, "Okay, well, it's this Wednesday, so just not too far away." And I end up showing up to this room full of strangers, wonderful people at this restaurant, and it's a smaller B&I group, 20 plus people, and it's my turn to speak, and I'm speaking on behalf of this business banker. And my goal is just to connect and to help make everybody laugh. And I succeeded, and they invited me back several times and asked me to join the group. In that group was just that, mostly filled with successful people, mostly filled with joyful people that I could tell. And they've already sent me a handful of referrals, which was pretty amazing. And vice versa. I'm also doing the same. In the elevator, like you were talking about, I specifically picked the building that really inspired me to live in. It's won all kinds of awards, whatnot over the years. I found out after I moved in, but there's interesting, successful people in here, and they're living life the way that I want to live life. And so when I'm talking to people, I'm usually finding myself inspired by some of their life story, even if it's 60 seconds in the elevator. And so I'm making coffee dates in the elevator with my neighbors, just to catch up and see who they are.
How do you open that convo? Like, how do you, when you're in the elevator, it's kind of awkward, right? It's the awkward elevator silence. Like, how do you get somebody, like, how would you invite them to go to coffee, or how do you break the ice?
Yeah, I just pay attention if people are open or not. Usually if people are open, you'll know after you say hello and the way that they say hello. And if they seem like they're open and friendly for conversation, we'll comment on the obvious. It's like, oh, whether it was snowing or whether it's warm, cold, or something that's happened at the building that, oh, look at what they did for the decorations. And I just tell them, hey, I'm new here at the building. And people are usually really interested once they hear that I'm new here, and they ask me what's brought me here, and I tell them. And then if we connect, I'm like, hey, if you ever like to catch up over coffee, let's do that. And,
that's
a
so
few
good.
times out of so many, they'll always say yes.
You know what I love? I don't want the audience to miss the golden nugget of you created conversation by being vulnerable yourself, not asking someone for vulnerable information first. And that's a key tactic in relationship building. Not to make everything break down to just a tactic, right? Because it's got to be sincere. But you said, I'm new here to the building. You're revealing information about yourself, which allows people to now open up, because you're not just going, hey, what's your name? Hey, what floor do you live on? You're not asking them for vulnerable information before you've given and opened yourself up. And I think that's a key tactic in relationship building and networking.
Yeah, I'm finding a lot of people want the same. They want to connect with other people that are experiencing success in their life, whatever that might be, and they're all so happy. I mean, these are just connecting on that higher vibration is really sincere and heartfelt. Like, that's what we all want, is healthy, successful relationships that inspire us to do better things.
So, like, when you think about your real estate business, like, do you set do you have a target for yourself this year, in the sense of like, are you like, okay, I'm going to try to do 15 million in volume, and, I'm going to try to have an average sales price of this? Like, are you doing that stuff, or is it just like, hey, I'm going to be present in the moment, build a bunch of friendships and relationships, let people know what I do, and let the rest naturally happen? Like, how do you process that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm trying to figure out what is that real goal, but I do have a base goal, which I would would love to blow out of the water. And so the base goal is, first off of my things that are controllable to me, like how many people am I reaching out to, or how many conversations am I having per day?
Okay.
And so I can control that by making phone calls, by setting up coffee appointments, and by the highest level is setting appointments with potential buyers and sellers. And so if I'm doing these low level goals, which is 5 per day or more for conversations, and then try to get 2 meetings. If it's 1 meeting a day, that's a win. The goal is, I would love to sell 24 properties in this area, not including what we're already doing in Whatcom County or Bellingham area.
Yeah.
So if I could do, the average price over here is about 1.3. If I could do 2 of those a month on average, that'd be fantastic. And I tell you what, it's only 2 months here, and the formula is already working. We already picked up a listing that's about $7 million for a development project. If I find the buyer for that, there's a high chance that I might be the listing agent for the 28 units to be built later in the year. The other thing is based on these conversations that I'm having, I've already set up a couple appointments and got a yes to being a buyer's agent to a $3.5 million buyer from a surgeon that lives, him and his wife that live in the building here. And then another Amazon manager that's looking for something also just below that number.
Yeah, sounds like you're on your way to your goal, man.
Yeah. Jeez.
So how do you then approach, like, from a marketing, communication, client follow-up, nurture as you're meeting, building relationships? Like, what kind of marketing or communication are you sending to, because obviously the conversation is number one, but you want to have something else that stays in contact with them?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. In the past, that's been my weakness, so I built it into a strength. And so what we developed here at Blu.Ink, and Blu.Ink is like part of the EXP, under the EXP umbrella, but at Blu.Ink in our community, what we have is our partner program where we, what I end up doing for myself, and we released it to agents that want to join us, is that we have an over 300 point touch system for 24 months, for just under 24 months. So I put out this campaign. So as soon as I meet you, Josh, I'll put you in my database. And then I have this system that markets to my top SOI. So if you're in my area and you're hitting the points on who I want to serve and become friends with, and I'm going to put you in there, and you're going to end up getting soft touches throughout the entire year. And so I'm going to stay top of mind. So I'm going to give you some light emails. They're not going to be too wordy. I'm going to probably give you something a little bit heavier, just showing you who I am as far as like my bio, my history. You might get some postcards from me over the year. You might get a letter or 2 from me over the year. If you look me up, you'll probably get retargeted a little bit. So I'll follow you on Google a little bit. And a combination of that, when it's time for you to do something, you might at least give me a call for some advice.
300 touches over the course of two years.
That's
just under 2 years. Yeah.
What are you doing when you said retargeting on Google? Like, is it display ads, and are they more branding focused? Are they lead gen focused? Like, how are you actually running those?
Yeah, they're more brand recognition focused. So they're just you'll see my little face just chasing around. It'll actually be me and Stacy Graves, my business partner. I'm just chasing you around on the screen there.
I love that. Do you use a company like AdWorks to fulfill that for you, or are you doing it yourself? Or
no, I'm not doing AdWorks. I do have some business partners on the back end that can do that. That we're utilizing that. So we packaged everything up into we haven't specifically named it yet, but it is an elevated version of our team. We have a 3-tier team.
Okay.
And the top tier gives you this grade A service. So basically everything that the top coaches like you guys and everybody else that tell us what to do, we also do it for you. We push the buttons for you every single month with you.
Yeah, that's sick. That's a great value prop to attract new talent into your organization. Because you have,
it's something pretty new that we're doing, but we're really excited about it. We just Stacy and I have been experiencing quite a bit of success in the past month or 2 over it.
Okay.
And we're getting quite a bit of calls coming in, and now we just released it to 10 of our agents that wanted to participate in it.
Yeah, that's amazing. How much does like a 300 touch program over the course of 2 years, what are you spending on something like that on average per client? Just so the audience knows kind of like a range of what they can expect to spend.
Oh, yeah. That's a kind of a loaded question. It's, do you mean for me or for my agents?
Well, I mean, it could be either. I'm just looking for I want to give the audience an idea of are you spending like $30 a client, you think, or, $5 per client? I know it's sometimes hard to break down by client because if you have email, you're getting the more people you add, the more cost effective it is. But how do you think about what I guess maybe the better way to frame the question is, how do you think about how much you would spend on a client per year from a touch point standpoint? Because we find that that's a big hindrance for people is they don't invest enough into their current relationships because the relationship's not giving them a transaction immediately. And it's man, if you invested $25 for, a year, it may seem like a lot at scale, but it's really not. If over the course of 5 years they move, the commission you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. So this question is interesting because we've hired different companies and whatnot to help put stuff together. And it was quite expensive, including having an overall marketing manager doing it. And usually we pay them about 6 figures a year to do that. And then but we kind of refocus, reposition. We're able to do this for our agents for a split on their commission. So what we do, it doesn't cost our agents anything out of pocket, but they pay at the end of every deal.
Dang, man. How many agents you have? You said 60?
Yeah, we have, Stacy and I were talking today, we have 65 agents under the Blu.Ink umbrella today.
Okay.
And then 10 of them are under this program specifically. So once we run it for another 6 months and experience successes with each one of those, then you're probably going to take maybe about 5 to 10 more on.
Well, I don't know. Looking at Luke's face, I'm maybe he looks a little shocked.
I'm blown away by just the 300 touch points. Most people don't nearly have that. And then you're offering it for free.
Yeah.
You could probably grow your team from 60 to 120 that with this type of value prop.
What type of mistakes do you? Oh, sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I think we don't want to grow too fast. I think the best thing is if people see the value in it, it's more for a seasoned agent or somebody that's already been in the business maybe a couple years and they're already doing business, but they know what they're lacking. And if they know what they're lacking, it means because they know when they're doing all these things that they're not being consistent usually. And if they are being consistent, they're usually pulling time away from their sales.
Agreed.
So it's kind of this balancing act. And so for the agents that are interested in it, they will understand that wow, this is something that I've been missing. I just want to go out there and sell and talk and gain more relationships with my people.
Yep.
Now, I was just going to ask what you thought the biggest mistake agents were making, but is that it? Consistency?
Yeah. I would say consistency is probably one of the biggest mistakes as far as when it comes to marketing and brand recognition. I think consistency is when it comes to those things, that is something that we all let ourselves down on. Yeah. Usually
that's why you need a good leader, a good coach that can coach you to success in that. I'm curious, how do you balance running your own business and leading people? How do you make time for that, right? Because that's a big struggle for a lot of leaders out there.
Yeah. It's finding the right people to surround yourself around and finding the right system. So my personal example is I know that I'm not good at everything. None of us are meant to be. And it's finding that person or system that you can know and trust and grow for the long haul together. So when you can grow it, like watching you two, you guys fill in each other's gaps, and you guys are not the same person. You have different skill sets, and that's why you're probably working really well together over the years. That's the same thing that how it all started for me. I had a big aha moment when I found my business partner, Stacy. She started off as my assistant. And it blossomed from there, but I learned quickly that she had the skill sets that really helped me and vice versa. And it just took off from there, that we realized like, hey, we just need to fill in the gaps where somebody else has skill and that we don't. We need to plug that person in. But it's got to be for the long haul. It's got to be a trusting relationship.
Why Blu.Ink? Why the name Blu.Ink? It's curious.
Yeah. Blu.Ink, one night when I went to bed as we were forming the company, I was like, I said out loud before I went to bed, I'm like, I think I'm going to think of the name tonight. I just had that feeling. And then I woke up at like 3:15 in the morning, and I just sat up on my bed. I'm just like, it's Blu.Ink. And I sat up and I went on GoDaddy and started searching for domain names. And I'm like, okay, I found it. But then I had to ask myself, why Blu.Ink? And it's because historically, before that, we were doing Authenticign and all these e-signatures, that business relationships, or not the relationship, but business transactions, they started at the table historically and traditionally with Blu.Ink, so you could tell the copy from the original. And so at the end of the business transaction, usually at the escrow office or the lawyer's office, you're also sitting down signing in Blu.Ink, so you could see the original from the copy. But then from there, it's turned into like this acronym that we're yet to put out, but it's believe, lead, unite, inspire, nurture, and kindle success. And so that's kind of like the direction of Blu.Ink. But the name also is Blu.Ink shows tradition, and then it also shows like innovation, because it's not spelled traditionally, and it's not a .com, because BLU.INK is our domain name. So it shows, it's like a head nod to tradition, and also a head nod to the future.
That's awesome.
Dang,
man.
what an answer. I was not expecting that type of answer from Blu.Ink. I was thinking like, it's a blue ocean out there. And so I want to get, dude, that is well thought out. My gosh.
That's awesome, Chris.
That's sick.
Yeah, you are absolutely crushing it. We appreciate you coming on today and sharing your journey with us. Before we close out, let people know how they can connect with you.
You could either email me at Christopher at BLU.INK, or on my Instagram, Christopher.Erdmann.
Awesome. Thank you again, Chris. And thank you all so much for listening. You can get those links as well as the show notes all in one place over at staypaidpodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode and want to show your support, head on over to Apple Podcasts, drop us a 5-star review. And the best way to support the show is simply share this episode with someone that you know. If you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com, or you can find us on Instagram. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
And I'm Luke Acree. Chris, man, amazing. Love your energy, man. So calm. I feel like I'm listening to like Yoda. Like there's so much wisdom. I would encourage people to listen back. There's so much wisdom that you just dropped. And, just
Thank you.
Very humble in how you dropped it, but killing it. Like 65 team members, moved to a new zone, already got a $7 million development, going to close 24 deals as a goal. It's amazing. Here's my action item for everybody listening to this, and I want to apply it to myself, is if you heard Chris at the beginning, he gave you such a golden nugget, which is he tries to be present where he's at because God put him there for a reason. And whether it's going to turn into a deal or not turn into a deal, he wants to be present and aware so he can meet these people where they're at and actually connect with them. And that's how he ended up at the BNI networking, already got referrals from it. Just an incredible story. So my action item for you is, man, be intentional, be present with the people that you meet this week. Actually be there because you're there for a reason. Remember the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.